Welcome back to BK Nothing But Nets podcast. We got a special guest today, Pete. You guys know Pete. If you're listening to a net show at this point of the season, this man needs no introduction. I'm sure y'all know who he is. Pete from Nets fans, introduce yourself and tell us what you got going on, Pete.
All right, you just said it, man. I'm the host of Net Fans. I talk to insiders, Nets beat writers, fans, uh, live streamers such as yourself, and that's it, man. That's it. Let's talk some Nets. Let's go.
All right. So I want to get into this real quick. Yesterday to me was bottoming out. You lost to Toronto, a team that's just as bad as you. I know they have a lot more talent, but you lost by 30. I've always said this team was trying to win. It did not look like they were trying to win. It looked like they were playing out the games. Jordy's still coaching to win, it seems like, but it seems like they've checked out. That they're tanking as well now. The players no longer seem to have that same intensity. Did you pick up any of that vibe, or what were your thoughts on yesterday's disaster?
I don't know if I would call it a disaster because I wanted them to lose, but I didn't want to put in this plug so early, but it kind of makes sense to do it over here. I had Jay from BK from Twitter. I don't know if you know him personally. He does the spaces. He's a season ticket holder. He doesn't like to call himself a Nets insider, but he is a Nets insider. And one of my first questions is like what's going on? Like, are they actually trying? Are they not trying? And he tells me that they're trying. They're just flat out losing, whether it's because of injuries or maybe guys are tired. The system already is not made for this team. I just don't. They might be just running on fumes. How many games can you hustle for when I think they're like 2-15 their last 17 games or something like that, right? You might just
Mm-hmm.
run out of fumes at some point. The season's almost done.
There's less than 10 games left now, I believe, right? Like eight or 9 games
Nine, I
left.
think eight or
Nine.
nine, something like that. Yeah.
It's been a tumultuous season to say the least. I mean, it's I don't even know what to make of this season. Uh, but I want to get into I want to get into this. Why is D'Lo playing? Cam Johnson was out. They've rested everybody. Uh, I want to see more Whitehead. We got to see some Whitehead guys like that. We know what D'Lo is. In my mind, they've already decided whether or not they're going to offer him a contract and what that contract's going to look like for next year. In the middle of a tank like this, at this stage of the season, why is D'Lo still playing?
Because they're not tanking. They need a
Then
point
why
guard out there.
then why isn't Cam Johnson playing? You know what I'm saying? If they're not tanking, why isn't Cam Johnson playing?
I That's another thing I asked them. I said, is it a tanking rest, like a Philadelphia rest, or is it like an actual like this guy's actually tired? He told me he's the guy's tired. The guy talks to people around the team. I trust when he says something. I trust it. It's pretty much as good as gospel in my book.
Uh, Give me 1 second. I got some background noise. Okay. Um. All right. So Cam Johnson legitimately needed, but the rest of them, right? Uh, is Cam okay? What is Cam Thomas legitimately injured? Is that a legitimate injury, or is it a taking strategy, or is it a little bit of both? Do you think?
That's another thing I asked. That was one of the first questions I asked him. Yeah, he got hurt at the end of the game in Chicago. A hamstring injury, as everybody knows, those linger. Um, but yeah, he's it was not a good injury. That's an actual there's an actual concern there that they're like, you know what, like it's not worth it to have this guy play for the rest of the year. Let's just shut him down and he'll be good for next year.
No, to me, that's a smart strategy. Specifically at this stage of the season, you don't want it to linger over the next season. It makes perfect sense. All right, so I want to get into this, and you mentioned or Jay from BK on your show, which is fantastic, by the way. I've only got about halfway through because I just saw it about a half hour before it went live. Um, about an ethical tank. That might be the nice thing to do, but I'm not a half in, half out kind of guy. I'm not a lukewarm kind of guy. Either decide what you want to do, like Utah, or don't, and try to win games like Portland. What are your thoughts on his idea of an ethical tank? What did you kind of think of when he called it an ethical tank?
He called it like the Nets are being like classy, the Nets are being professional, And
Which
the
I
way
agree with.
that
I agree with that.
the way that I see it is, I feel like we're almost being shamed into like not tanking, and I kind of got a little upset, and I'm going to get a little upset again because if everybody else is playing by these rules, why are we the only ones not doing it? Like fans might get upset, and of course, I don't want to see the Nets lose. I want them to win. But like, let's face it, this team's not going to win a championship. And when every other team in our situation is tanking, what does that tell you? These guys that get paid millions of dollars that study this is their jobs. They say this is the path to go if you want to build a winner. This gives you the best chance. And then we just have some fans or some people that say, that's not the way. What does that tell you?
I'm gonna like. I agree with you for certain teams. It's the way. Small market teams, Portland, Utah, Sacramento. I mean, I know Sacramento, but you understand what I'm saying. Small market teams. That's the way for them. I don't think when you're in the biggest market in the country, the media capital of the universe, that tanking is necessarily the best option. We've been down. That's not really what I wanted to get into. We can talk about that a little later. But the idea of like the half-ass tank or the ethical tank, I guess, is a nicer way to put it. I kind of agree with you that I agree that that's what they're doing. I also think that it's stupid. I think like you should make your bed and sleep in it. If you want to tank, go full Utah Jazz. What the Sixers have been doing for the last month. Do that. If you don't, do what Portland's doing and try to win every game and try to tally up as many wins and see if you can get into the play-in. And I felt all along that this was a half-ass tank from the beginning. What are your thoughts on that?
You're absolutely right. It's not half-assed. They're trying not to tank. It's not even a tank. This is just we don't have the talent that the GM just magically. I don't say magically. He wanted to do this. He didn't give the coach enough talent to make sure that we would lose like this. He came into the season with basically two point guards. One of them is Ben Simmons. How long was that going to last for before he got hurt? So then you're basically running one point guard. You trade him. You had D'Lo. D'Lo gets hurt. You can't run an 82 game season with one point guard, or I could say 1.5 point guards. It doesn't work like that.
It's why I wanted to explore Cam Thomas at the point guard, have him run the point guard, not just for 3 minutes a game, have him run the point guard for chunks of the game where he's actually, that's your backup point guard. When D'Lo or Schroeder came out, he runs the point. I wanted to see what it looked like. We didn't really get much of a chance to do that. And you're saying that Cam Thomas's injury is actually something to be concerned about. So it's understandable. I did want to see, you talked about, Clowney, the 4 C's, Clowney, Cam Johnson, and Claxton. We got to see all of them that we wanted to see. But the other two guys, Clowney, and I want to get to Clowney a little bit, and CT, we didn't get to see him as much as we wanted to. And I didn't get to see him in the roles that I wanted to. I want to address this. Alan's a friend of the program. He's a Hawks fan. He wants to know how much better is the 26 draft than the 25 draft. I'm not the biggest draft guru, especially with 26. That's more a Dylan question. It's supposedly really good. It's better. Pete, do you have any thoughts on that?
I'm the same thing as you. I'm not really a draft guru, but this is what from the people I talk to, this is what what I heard. And when I say people I talk to, I'm not talking about any agents or anything, just like everyday fans who just happen to be like studied up on the draft. They say the very top of the 26th draft is better than this draft, but the 25 draft has more depth to it. That's from what I understand.
That's what I understand. I've looked at the 2025 draft class, in depth, not like some of these experts do, but I've looked at it, and I haven't looked at 26. I'll get to 26 after this draft is over. And I know that we're tanking. If we're not tanking and we're going to draft 19, I'm going to be honest. I'm not going to get that crazy about the draft if we're drafting in the middle of the first round, which I think that we might. Your thoughts, Pete, on a 2-year tank? Is next year a tank year 2, or is next year a rebuild year? We're looking to get, we're not going to be a championship team, but you look to get into the play-in at least.
I think it's going to come down to like a number of things. It depends who we draft this year, where where the lottery falls, what we do with these draft picks. Let me give you a scenario, right? We wind up getting the first overall pick. We get Cooper Flag, and then I'm trying to think who's really young and really good. Okay. This is never gonna happen, but an SGA type player says, "I want to come to the Nets." If an SGA says he wants to come to the Nets, you forget about the rebuild. You pay the picks and you get the young star, right? Crazy situation that's not gonna happen. But
let me give you a name that
know,
I think could be available that may ask out if his team misses the playoff. Anthony Edwards. Would you tear everything down for Anthony Edwards or John Morant? Or are those not good enough players to tear everything down over?
man, I'm so 50-50 on Anthony Edwards. My gut, people are going to yell at me, but I'm going to say no. I happen to be a big John Morant fan. I would consider it. I would definitely consider that. I don't know what the value would be with everything off the court, but if we're talking talent, I think he's still pretty young, right? What is he? Like 25, 24? Is he even past 25?
John Morant's 25, so Edwards is 24, I believe.
Yeah, I've never been an Anthony Edwards fan, but everyone likes him, and I might be off there, but that's a good example of good young stars that would like change your mind. But I would have to assume next year that maybe it's not a full tank, but like you're gonna be in the bottom 10. You're gonna actually try to contend, but you're gonna have so many young guys and guys on 1-year deals that it's just gonna fall apart. I don't you know what I mean? It would be very smart to tank again.
I can live with it. They couldn't tank properly this year, right? What makes you think they can tank properly? I'm being serious. They couldn't put. This was the worst roster I think they've had. Maybe worse than the 12 and 70 team. Like it was that bad of a roster, especially with if you factor that Cam Thomas is going to miss almost the whole season. Like it's egregiously bad. What makes you think they can they can tank properly next year?
I think it would be up to Jordy and it'd be up to Sean to get the talent. I think it would be a little different next year because I'm going to make a wild assumption now that we're going to at least get 2 first rounders to kind of build around from this draft. I would assume that we're going to keep the 5th overall pick or wherever wherever it lands in the lottery. That one's going to be the focus guy, the face of the franchise, presumably CT. And then you have, I don't know, maybe a guy in the 20s, and you kind of build around them. So when you're tanking, it's a lot different than it's a lot different than this year. This year, you're not really building around anyone, right? Like CT was the young talent. Next year, could you imagine if you have a Cooper Flag, if you have, I don't know, a Boogie Flynn, and then you have CT also. Those are a couple young, exciting players. It makes it a little bit different. You see their development. So yes, it might be a tank, but you're also actually building towards something. Like Keon Johnson's cool. I love the hustle, but is he going to be around 2 years from now? I don't know.
He's not an NBA player, and he's not, and neither is Jalen Wilson. And I don't have any problems with either of these guys. I'm just saying that Keon Johnson is an athlete who happens to play basketball. He's not an NBA player. I mean, he can't shoot. He can't score consistently. He can't handle a ball. Like, what about Keon Johnson? Do you see that says that guy can be in an NBA rotation?
The defense.
He's got a lot of hustle. He does.
He could, and every once in a while, he could hit a 3.
He shoots it, but there are plenty.
I know he shoots a reckless abandon, but when you're on a losing team, they tell you to shoot. They're gonna tell him to shoot. He's got to keep on taking the shot, and you hope one day it flips the switch. That's the whole thing of this, right? If you had a Cooper Flag now that keeps on shooting and you see progress made, that's a lot more exciting. That's the thing. Like, we don't have like buildable talent on this roster, and I think that's what makes it so difficult to go through a year like this. Because it's like, okay, we get the draft pick, but we didn't even get to develop CT a little bit. Like, imagine if CT would have developed a part of his game this year that would have really made you excited. You said, okay, we got CT, we got Cooper Flag. we got, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. And Jay brought up an interesting point about Wemby going to San Antonio, LeBron going to Cleveland, and so on and so on. Derrick Rose going to Chicago, and it seems like that's a major coincidence that all these players go to the exact cities where they're supposed to go to.
You got John Wall going to Washington when
Washington.
Ted Leonis bought the team. They're trying to sell the Pelicans. Zion goes there. You know, like in hindsight, you know, it's kind of it's funny, but then I also think to you know, what was it like Atlanta won like a couple years
Atlanta
ago?
won it in a year where
know?
everybody knows there was no prize in it. Like he won it the year the prize was a Cracker Jack box. You know what I'm saying? It's like, okay, like everyone knew Ricochet is a decent player. He's a good player. He wasn't changing your franchise. Like there wasn't, you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, that's fair.
This is a year where people think that you could be getting the big prize. And I don't know. I mean, Cooper Flag is an amazing athlete. He's got a basketball IQ of a seasoned pro, and he's consistently hit the three in the second half of the season. So it shows you that he's improving, which probably indicates a good work ethic, which is everything that you want. But I don't know that Cooper Flag is going to be the next great thing. I don't know that he's going to be a 12-time All-Star, All-NBA. I don't know any of that. Like, he's going to be good, but is he going to be a franchise-changing guy? He's 18 years old. I can't tell you yet.
Gary, I think it's getting to the point that I think he's like a can't miss.
You think so?
Yeah, I think I don't know. I was a little hot. I get hot and cold on him, but the way that everybody's talking, and you watch him play, and it's like he's always a step above the talent. You know, he played against Team USA, and like LeBron, they did like a little practice team to get the college kids, and he gets the right cosigns. It looks like he has the right like temperament, the right IQ. Then you see the talent, the passes that he makes, the defense. It's like he's not too far off. That if he got like, man, if he works on his shot just a little bit, and you know, I think he's a can't miss. I think he's a can't miss.
That's what people are saying. So yeah, I'll trust it. You know, he's going to be good. Like obviously, he's going to be a good NBA player. I'm just wondering how good is he going to be? Is he going to be a top 5 player in the league? Is he going to be the best player in the league? I mean, I don't know. Is he going to be a 28 guy who's good? You know, he's good. I don't know. But yeah, there's definitely a bunch of upside. I don't think there's any debate anymore. I remember seeing scouting reports from a year ago saying, Andre Kirilenko, Andre Iguodala. It's like, oh, is that what we're talking about here? Yeah, he's obviously better than that. Now I'm seeing Kawhi Leonard, things like that. Scottie Pippen, who I think is overrated. But okay, that's what we're talking about. All right, yeah. My question. Well, let's. I don't want to get too tied up in Cooper Flag right now. John raises an interesting point. At one point this year in February, we were tied for 4th best draft odds with Charlotte, and at another point in February, we were half a game behind the Bulls for the play-in. It's been an interesting season. I mean, I don't know how many teams that you can say that about, but I mean, was there ever a point in this season, Pete, where you said, screw it? Because I know you're a tank guy. Where you said, screw it. Let's just try to make the play-in. Let's try to win games.
No, never.
No?
Not even for a second. Not even for a second.
When they won, what was it, like 7 out of 9 or 5 out of 7? They won a bunch of games, and they got within half a game of the Bulls. It looked like they were going to make the play-in because the Bulls were losing, the Nets were winning. I was like, the Nets are going to try to go for this. Well, I was like, all right. Screw it. And then after I said,
yeah, I'll tell you right now. They won 7 out of 9.
Yeah.
And then wait up. Let me go over this with you. Then right after that, they went like 2 and 15. It's right after that. Let me count this up. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. They went, I think, 2 and 16 after.
And that's where we are now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So right after I started rooting for them to win games, I said, let's just get in the play-in. Maybe they can get in the play-in, and then they would have to play Atlanta, and maybe Miami, and I don't know, Miami's falling apart, Atlanta's hurt. Maybe they can win those games. Maybe they get in the playoffs. I don't know. I mean, what the hell do we have to lose at this point? And then they immediately lost 7 in a row after that. So I was like, all right, well, so much for that. But I don't even know what to make of this season. Like, if you were rooting for the tank, you're disappointed, right? And if you were rooting for them to compete, you're disappointed. So what do you make of the season, Pete?
I guess like right now I'm okay, but at one point, like what you said, when they're half game behind the Bulls, yeah, that was pretty disappointing. That was pretty disappointing. That's what happens when you go not too far to one side or the other side, and you just try to play it in the middle, and you say we're not tanking, but the talent sucks, but our coach is trying to win, and it's no vision. It's opposites, right? Like how far can you go in each direction? The coach is not going to pull CT in the middle of a big game, and and he's not going to, and then Jordy's not going to get an all-star come at the trade deadline. So you're stuck in the mid. You're mid. It's the worst place to be.
They're mid amongst the bad teams, yeah, which is not, yeah. But you kind of tipped your hand with this, and I'll show you my hand. I think the NBA lottery is rigged. Like, I don't care. I don't see a point in having an NBA lottery, a lottery, unless you're going to rig it. Like, just give the worst team the best pick, right? So, like, what's the point of having this lottery unless you're going to rig it? And Jay, on your podcast, pointed out they used to do this live on TV in front of you. Now they do it in the back room, and they, like.
But it is filmed. Like, that's another thing. It is filmed. I think that people think that, okay, so this is going to get really complicated, so I'm going to try to keep this very, very simple. People think that it's ping pong balls, and you get the ping pong ball, it comes out of the machine, you hold it up, and it says Nets. That's not how it works. I'm going to try to make this very simple, but it's a little more complicated, okay? So the Brooklyn Nets, okay, we have the 5th best odds. We are given, I'm going to make this up off the top of my head, 10 sets of numbers, okay? 10 sets of numbers. Our first set of numbers is 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to say the Jazz. I'm making this up. The Jazz have a worse record than us. They're going to have 15 sets of numbers. They're going to have 1, 2, 4 as their first one. I'm just making that up, okay? Those sets of numbers have to match. If 1, 2, 4, if the set of first ball 1, second ball 2, third ball 4, Jazz get the pick. If it's 1, 2, and 3 comes out, Nets get it. And there's other numbers that the Nets could get. Like, I'm making this up, like 1, 2, 5, 1, 2, 6. And each team has a set of numbers. You get more numbers with the higher percentage. So I know it's complicated. I hope I'm not boring everybody. Mm-hmm. It's a lot easier to see it in front of you than just, seeing me from a little circle. But that's how it works.
I guess my question to that is, why do it that way? Like, there's no other sport, there's no other system in the world that determines things like that. Like,
yeah,
there's 2 options. Let the the worst team pick first and the best team pick last, or just give everyone one ball and pick them at random. You don't make the playoffs, you all have the same shot. That way, we decentivize tankings. Either you go to the playoffs and you win your way into the playoffs, or you don't, and you all have the same chance of getting the first overall pick.
Like, well, the reason why they do that is partially because of Patrick Ewing. Because they said, okay, like if we go, it's very easy to rig, or it looks a lot, it looks kind of shady when the Knicks get Patrick Ewing. But if you have this system of numbers and a ping, Nets have to get 3 sets of numbers to come up to get it. So if they win, how could you say that it's fixed? You had 3 numbers come up that the Nets got. The Jazz had the equal chance of getting those 3 numbers as well. If not, and of course they have more sets of numbers, but you get my point when I say that. Like, the ping pong balls could have gone any way that any team could have gotten their numbers. It's just up to Lady Luck.
I just don't understand if the NBA is incentivizing losing or not incentivizing. And I had this argument with Doug Norrie for about 3 days on Twitter. I don't think the NBA incentivizes losing.
No, they're punishing you. They're punishing losing.
That's kind of my point. So what's the point? If the NBA doesn't incentivize losing, what's the point of tanking?
You don't want to incentivize losing. Like, people forget the reason.
Why are we tanking them?
Or are you tanking? I have the perfect answer for you. But first, I'm going to go back very, very quickly. The reason why we have a lottery is because of Akeem Olajuwon. The Bulls and the Rockets actually were the original tankers. They went out of their way to lose, to try to get Akeem Olajuwon, and the NBA said this is going to be an issue. So then they have a lottery, okay? And now we come back to today. I say that they punish losers because you can't just lose the most games and automatically get a LeBron James. You have two other teams behind you that have the same odds. And if you remember, just I think maybe 5 years ago, they redid the odds for the lottery because it was too easy. The teams were tanking and it was working. Now it's even harder. You could have the worst record in the NBA and pick fifth. That's horrible.
Then don't tank. Then that's the point. Like, this is why. Like, look, the Nets are so bad. You look at the Nets roster; it's the worst roster I can ever remember them having. And I go back to the Ed O'Bannon and Nika Dare days. I've been a fan of this team for over 30 years, and this is like the worst roster I'd ever seen. Like, so to me, it's like, all right, I don't think tanking is a good option. I just don't see a better move on the chessboard. So I guess tanking it is, even though I don't think it ultimately works. This is not what I want to pull up. I want to pull up the tankathon odds. I just want to like kind of make my point here with the new odds. You can have the three worst records in the NBA, and statistically, you're still not going to get the first pick, right? There's only a 42% chance that any of the top three teams are going to get the number one pick. So there's a 58% chance that whoever gets the first pick, so more likely than not, whoever gets the first pick is not one of the three worst teams in the NBA. So what was all the tanking for? The difference.
You put yourself in a position. It's not about getting the player. You're not guaranteed to get the player. It's about putting yourself in the position to give yourself the more of those. Remember those numbers? I want to get as many numbers, as sets of numbers as possible. So when the ping pong balls come up, there's a better chance I can get a LeBron James, that I could get a so-and-so player. I can get a Cooper Flag, because that extra set of numbers might be separated, I don't know, by like 5 losses, that extra percentage. And then that's the difference between you getting a franchise player or Philadelphia getting a franchise player. And then you have a decade worth of losing in front of you if a Cooper Flag is truly a dominant player. And you could have got him, but you wanted to win.
You wouldn't have gotten him. You have an 86% chance, even if you have the worst record in the NBA. If you go 0-82.
Somebody has to get him.
Right. And it's statistically, it's not going to be you. Overwhelmingly, it's not 86%.
Probably not.
Would you get, if Pilot said there's a 14% chance I'm going to land this plane, would you get on that plane?
No, but if there's, okay, I'll say it to you this way. Would you rather have a 40% chance of winning the lotto or a 5% chance of winning the lotto?
I'd rather have a 40% chance, right?
That's the thing. It's a chance. It's not about getting the player. People think it's about getting, no, it's not. It's about getting a chance. And you may not get the chance. You still may not get it, but you give yourself the best position to win.
Let me ask you this question, though. Do you? Okay. Be honest. If the Nets weren't on the come up, if they weren't a team that was winning games, that got into the playoffs, that was exciting to watch, do you think that KD and Kyrie would have signed here back in 2019? Be honest.
Do I think they would have said, if we were not an up-and-coming team
that was exciting to watch, would they still have signed here?
I don't think so.
So this present rendition of the Nets would never have landed those guys. So you're diminishing your chance of getting an impact player because you play in a big market. If you're Utah, if you're OKC, if you're Sacramento, if you're Portland, you're not landing those guys. They're not signing with you, right? If you're the Nets, if you're the Lakers, if you're the Heat, you don't have to tank. Just build a good brand of basketball and then attract a free agent.
They've been trying to do that. And we have Keon, KD's not going to come here for Keon Johnson.
But that's what I'm saying. Build a good team. Don't try to rip it down and then hope I get Cooper Flag.
Okay, well, what could they have done this year to get a better play? Like, what could they have done this year?
I'm with you.
Right? It's tough. It's tough.
This year was a disaster.
Let me talk 1 second, Gary. In a normal scenario, you'd be right. But where the Nets were coming from, this was the move. This was the move.
I
You know?
agree. I reluctantly agree with you, right? Like it's like the candidate you vote for because he's less bad than all the other candidates, right? Like that's kind of where I am on the tag. Like, okay, I don't love this, but I'm going along with it because I have no better options. Like
And
that's
then,
kind of how
and Gary, in different roster situations, in different roster scenarios, you may be right. It might be like, listen, we're like a player away, or we're 2 players away. We're like a star and like, maybe like a third option away. We shouldn't rebuild now. But just where the Nets were after trading Bridges, I think that was the right move.
it was the only move after you traded Bridges, and I get it. And I looked at this roster. I said, "This is the." But then you didn't trade Cam Johnson, and you didn't trade DFS till close to the deadline. None of these things, none of the moves made sense to me. Like it was all like these were weird moves. Like I remember talking to you before the season started, and I was saying DFS and Cam Johnson have to be traded before the season starts, and I thought DFS would be. And I thought they would hold on to Cam Johnson to try to up his value a little bit because it would have been real rough to trade Cam. He played well enough, like okay, we can trade him. And then they didn't trade DFS to almost the deadline, and Cam Johnson's still on the roster. Like I don't like how is this a tank, and how does Cam Johnson, who's going to be 30, fit into the rebuild? I don't understand.
If you look at his contract's getting lower
Yeah,
and the cap is going up. And if you look at our salary cap, we have Claxton, CJ, and then that's it. Everybody else is making like less than 6 million. Or you know what I mean? It's like I don't know if you're gonna bring back Zaire Williams, and we don't know what CT's gonna get. But basically, you have like an empty roster. You have almost a full clean cap sheet besides those 2 guys. If you wanted to make a trade for somebody, you were gonna have to trade some. Would you want to give up Claxton if you weren't trying to give up a center? You might have to trade CJ or save CJ for something like I don't know, a pivot move. I'm not sure. I'm trying to make sense of it, and that's the only thing that makes sense.
I agree that Cam Johnson's contract isn't as bad as we thought it was initially when we thought we couldn't trade him.
And hey, Larry, he still might be moved, right?
He, in theory, but if he was going to be moved, why wouldn't he have been moved already? You know what I'm saying? You got plenty of offers for him. 11 teams reportedly checked in on him. Why, if you were going to move him, why didn't you just take the best offer of the 11? It wasn't like there was one team that checked in and the deal sucked. You're like, you know what? I'm not doing it. Allegedly, from reports, 11 separate teams checked in on Cam Johnson.
What is checking when they do that? They say, so what is checking in? Is checking in is like, hey, is CJ available? Or is checking in, I have this player, this pick, and that pick? Both are considered checking in, right? But I think the main issue of that was the salary cap. That a lot of teams were either over the cap or about to hit the cap, and they say, we don't want to go into the cap for this guy because he's not really an all-star. He's not like a super difference maker. And then you have to pay for it. You got to pay the extra tax on it, whatever it may be. Some teams couldn't make the deal because they don't have the assets. I think it's a lot easier to move him now in the offseason. And he might get moved. We don't know.
He could. I think if he does get moved, it's not going to make you guys happy because he's going to get moved for an all-star. He's going to be a salary piece in a trade for an all-star. Zion, I don't know who's going to be. Trae Young may be available. I think it's going to be a guy like that, and I don't think that. I think they saved him because they didn't get an offer that blew him away, right? We know that San Antonio came with Harrison Barnes and a 1, which I would have just made. Harrison Barnes has 1 year left on his deal when he's off the books, and a 1. All right, done. I'll take it. But they saved him for a reason. I think that reason is that they're going to try to move him this offseason for an all-star caliber player. What are your thoughts on that? As a piece in a trade for an all-star player.
I know what you're saying. I think you're half right. If we look at Sean Marks and how he thinks, or at least how we think he thinks from the moves that he makes and from what he says, he's very big on fluidity and having the option of things, not selling yourself short, making sure that if you have to pivot, you can pivot, right? I think he's going to be there for that role of possibly being traded, but I don't think it happens. Maybe I'm biased, but we could find out tomorrow a Luka is going to be available. You know, like you just never know which players are going to be available in this league.
Right.
And it happens so quick, happens so fast. Before you know it, guys are available, and you're on the computer waiting to see if a deal's going to get done. You just never know.
Yeah, and the Nets not long ago had James Harden, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Durant, 3 first ballot all-time great Hall of Famers. Now we have Keon Johnson, Jalen Wilson, and Tosan from Walmart. So things change quickly. Like things change. I said when we traded KD and Kyrie in a week's span, whatever that was, we went from the most talented roster in the NBA to the least talented roster in the NBA that quickly. It's going to be. So, would you be in favor of moving Cam to get an all-star caliber player? Whoever the concept of that idea, would you be open to it, or is next year a tank year for you no matter what?
I'm open to anything.
Okay.
I'm open to anything. I'm not, you know what I mean? I call myself a centrist when it comes to the tank, because I can see where anti-tankers are coming from. I get it. But I feel like you guys just don't see the long-term vision. But I also agree on the other hand that if the right player comes at the right time, I'm not going to say no. If SGA says I want to come to Brooklyn and that's the only team that I want to play for, I'm saying let's go. Like this is it. This is what you saved your picks up for.
Yeah, Mark is suggesting, this has obviously been thrown out there and it has legs, and I think the Nets are going to pursue it. Whether they can do it or not, who knows? Giannis. If Giannis went to Brooklyn, which street do we name Giannis Avenue? Look, I think if he becomes available, the Nets are going to make every possible run at him. Do they have enough to get him? That depends on what Milwaukee wants. If Milwaukee wants a player, no. If Milwaukee wants Cam Thomas and a bunch of picks, we've got the package for you. So that depends on what Milwaukee wants. Does Milwaukee want a hardcore tear down rebuild? We got one championship in a small market. Let's be happy and let's look for our next Giannis. Or do they want to compete for a while and they want to stay relevant? If they want to stay relevant, we don't have a package for them. If they want to tear the thing down, we have the package for them.
Do you even traded Giannis without tearing it down? There is no pivot move. That's be like, we're going to trade Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, but we're going to pivot. Which is what Dennis Schroeder tried to do, actually.
Yeah,
but that doesn't work. That doesn't work. You can't pivot when you lose Hall of Fame talent.
I think the goals in a big market like Brooklyn compared to a small market like Milwaukee are different, right? I think if you could tell Milwaukee, you'll be good, you'll be relevant for the next 10 years, they take that. Whereas if you play in a big market, there's one goal. I want to win a championship, especially if you're the Knicks or the Nets who haven't won a championship in forever. I know the Knicks have. It's been 50 years or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. I think the goals are different. Yeah, I want the Nets to be good. If I could sign up for the Nets to be good for the next 10 years, I would take it. But I want to see the Nets win a championship. And when you play in the largest market in the world, you should be competing for championships. Am I wrong?
I think if you're a player or a fan, I think no matter where you are, you want to be competing for a championship. But I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Right, but I'm saying there's a reason why free agents don't flock to Utah. There's a reason they don't flock to OKC.
There's a lot of reasons why they don't flock to Utah. But but Oklahoma City, they did get, they got a couple players. They got a Carmelo back in the day, right? They got a Paul George,
bro. You didn't get Pete Carmelo. You didn't get Carmelo that went to the Knicks.
Well, what about PG-13? I guess that was a trade, right? But I think he still had approved the trade there.
Yeah, he did. And yeah, look, you can do it, but you better have a damn good team. You better have a title contention team if you want to get that player. That player better feel like you're one step away. If I go there, we can win a championship, right? Like, and Toronto is a huge market, but it's in Canada. No one wants to be there. Kawhi was like, okay, I can go play in Toronto and get a championship, but then I'm getting the hell out of there. I'm not staying there. I'm going to try to win a championship
Toronto's
there.
a beautiful city.
It is. It's a great city.
Very cold.
It's just very cold, and it's in a different country, and your dollar doesn't go as far. It's just, yeah, I'm not. And there's all of that. But like, yeah, you can get that guy, but can you keep that guy? Probably not. What did Kawhi do as soon as he hit free agency? He signed with a big market team.
Well, he was going home, right? I
He
think you gotta.
was. He was. If home was, Salt Lake City, would he be going home? You know what I'm saying? Like maybe.
Maybe.
I home is home.
Probably not, right?
Yeah,
Probably not.
but there's always a chance. Like LeBron going to Cleveland. I want to go home. I want to win a championship for my team. I get that. I wanted to touch on, well, this just stab in the dark. I'm asking you to speculate. I'm asking you to put your conspiracy theorist hat on. Where do you think the Nets draft in this draft?
My heart says 2. My brain says 4.
Either way, I think that's a win. Like 2 is obviously a lot better than 4 because I think there are 3 dynamic players. I'm still thinking Ace is a dynamic player. I know that the temperature on him has changed a little bit, but I can live with 4. 4, you're still getting probably Fears. You're getting a really good player. I think they're drafting 1 or 2 because I think the NBA is in position where things aren't real good for them right now, and they need their stars in big markets. And I kind of think like Brooklyn, and not that San Antonio is a big market, but they have Wemby. In my brain, I think, and I don't know which order, I think San Antonio and Brooklyn is going to pick 1 and 2 in some order.
I don't think they're gonna give. I don't know if it is rigged. I don't think they would give them another first, another one like that. I for some reason I just feel like the Jazz and Cooper Flag just go well together. I don't know. I keep on feeling it. Maybe it's because I wanted to get a point guard, but I don't know. I'm just so conflicted because like I love Fears, but then the shot scares me. And I've been a big VJ fan from the beginning, but then I started thinking about his height, and now I'm starting to get more warmer on him. It's like I keep on going through, and like it's tough. It's like Cooper Flag is number 1. We know number 2 is going to be Harper, and then after that, it's like you could toss it around. I see a lot of draft boards with VJ has overtaken Ace, which I don't know if that's I'm kind of befuddled by it. It seems a little very quick. Like, is it because of VJ? Or is it that you don't believe in Ace?
I think it's a combination of both, and I think it's going to. Like, no matter who picks 1 and 2, Cooper is 1, and Harper is 2, right? Like it doesn't matter. I think after that, I think 3 and 4 is going to be. It's going to depend on who's drafting 3 and 4. Like if New Orleans is drafting 3, I think it's VJ, right? It just makes more sense than having him and Zion play together, unless they're going to trade Zion. I think 3 and 4 it's going to go in the order, whatever order 3 and 4 goes in. I think it depends on what teams are picking. Like I don't think there's a consensus 3rd overall and 4th overall pick like there are for 1 and 2. If that makes sense.
I get what you're saying. What's up, LBO? LBL.
Hey, what's up, guys?
So I want you to put your conspiracy theorist hat on. Where do the Brooklyn Nets draft in the 2025 draft?
Yeah, it's funny that Pete said that because I was thinking the same thing. 4th.
4th? I can live with 4th. I can be happy with 4th. I don't think it changes your franchise. And for me, it's not worth tanking, but we're already this far into it. Now we're tanking. Who would you take at 4? Assuming, well, if Ace Bailey is at 4, then that's what we're doing.
That's what I would do if he's still there. It's the question gone. If he's not, who do we take? You know?
If Ace goes 3, which like we expected all the way up until about 5 minutes ago, right? And it's VJ and Fears and Maluak, who would you take at 4? LBL.
Yeah, I'm not sure because I probably wouldn't take Maluak, and it'd probably be between the guards, It would probably be between the 2 guards. But you know what I was going to say, that I heard Pete say something about Fears, But my thing is, if we ended up 2nd, and Cooper goes first, like you said, right? Cooper goes first. Then we end up second. If you get Dylan Harper, are you really worried about what other point guard is in the whole draft? I wouldn't. You get what I mean?
Pete.
I'm saying
Uh,
so. I don't care about, like, it's not to say I would not take a Boogie Flan, like at 20th or something if he's the best player available. But I'm saying I wouldn't worry about fears. I wouldn't worry about anyone else if you give me Dylan Harper.
yeah, absolutely. And I think you made a point. Like, if we go, I think Milwaukee's pick is 17 right now, right? We get to 17. We already picked Harper, but then at 17, Fears is right there. I'm taking Fears also. Like, I don't care. I'm taking the talent,
Well, if he's the best,
right?
yeah, if he's the best available at that point, yeah, or if and that's why I said Flan because Fears is likely to be gone. So,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just saying, whoever it is, like I've never been a guy to take, the only teams that can really afford, when you talk about lottery teams, the only teams that can really afford to take by position are teams that are already loaded and stacked. You know, like it made sense to me for Melo to go to Detroit, and then they picked Milicic or whatever. But I'm saying it made sense for me to for them to take Melo. You know what I mean? But I mean, and even when you think about that, as much as we talk about, well, he didn't go there. Can you imagine if Detroit would have taken Wade or Bosch?
Oh
Like
yeah.
they still would have been contenders for a long time with one of those two.
And that's like what I don't like picking for need. I just don't, pick the best player available, right?
Yeah,
If Detroit would have picked the best player available, I mean, they're taking Carmelo, and
yeah.
it's obvious. And they won a championship because they ended up trading for Rasheed Wallace, and that worked out for him. But like, it's obviously a wrong pick, and it's a wrong pick
Well, they were they
because
were still they were still Larry Brown influenced.
yeah,
So that was the thing. Because Larry Brown, I can say hands down, he's probably one of the top 5 coaches of all time. Just strategy, game wise, all that. But when he's not a great GM, and he's not, and he wants people to play a particular way. So all you got to do is look at how he submarined the Knicks when he got there.
yeah.
And they had a decent GM in Donnie Walsh too. So for him to submarine that team, and he once traded let me see, who did he? Oh, he traded Ray Williams. We had Ray Williams, and he traded him to Kansas City so that we could get Phil Ford, just because Phil Ford played the right way.
I
And I guess
wanted
he
to
did. Go ahead.
I wanted to transition real back to last night's game and general. I wanted to get you guys' thoughts on Noah Clowney. He had another horrible game, and he's been horrible since he's gotten back from the injury. His game log is atrocious. Yesterday was what was he yesterday? He was 1 for 9 again, 1 for 6 from three. He's been like this about 5-6 games in a row since he came back from injury. Is this reason to be concerned, guys, or is this just a hangover and he'll fix this? He's just rusty and coming off an injury, or is this reason to be concerned?
Go ahead, Pete.
He can't even buy a beer yet. You know what I mean? Like we next year, I think is the year that we start pressing him a little bit as far as watching and dissecting his game. He had a couple injuries this year. Um, he's still, like I said, still very young. Can't even buy a beer, so he kind of gets a little bit of a pass. But
Sure.
next year, we're gonna be watching. I give him a pass. I'm not too concerned.
All right. So to me, what you're saying is, what you're admitting is, and it's not that big an admission, but what you're saying is he's a project.
Yes, it was a project
Because
from the moment they drafted him.
yeah, he's the 20th pick. Because the only reason I saw him play actually was because I was looking at the guy from Charlotte. The guy who went to Charlotte, Miller. I was looking at Miller, and I said, "Oh, this Clowney, he's not that bad." Yeah, but but really, I would say, and he is a project. to get drafted when you're like 19 or whatever, 18 or 19, and he plays, he's a 6'10" guy. Um, I think he is a project, but I don't think it's really that. I think this is his. Gary knows I wanted him to play. I wanted him to be like one of the top 4 guys in minutes, but
Yeah.
injuries and all that didn't help. But I would say this. Well, I see Mark is co-signing your "Can't Buy a Beer Yet" sums it up perfectly. But hey, neither can Derek McQueen. So, but if Derek McQueen comes in and flops, we're all going to be angry. You know what I mean?
Well,
Well,
it's different expectations, right?
Yeah, and not year one. If Derek Queen comes in and sucks years one, but he shows flashes, he shows that he can play in the NBA, I'm okay with it. Like if he just comes in and sucks, like Ed O'Bannon, and he get there, all right, I'm gonna lose it, right?
Yeah,
but if
yeah,
he shows,
yeah.
like,
But that's what I'm saying.
You remember that? You remember Yinka
Yes,
Dare
yes,
didn't
yes.
play.
I remember.
Ed O'Bannon day one was horrible, and you knew
Yeah.
it. It's like, oh man.
And he beat my Arkansas team, which I was mad about.
I was rooting for you, so that's after the Tyus Edney game because that was that same run. I was rooting for UCLA. That was crazy.
But but now, and I do remember who you just talked about the other day. Drew.
Bryce Drew.
Yeah, his father was Homer Drew, right? The coach.
Yeah.
And so his father coached him, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that I don't know how much that did for Bryce Drew, but it did a whole lot for. I mean, it did a whole lot for Homer Drew because I think he went on to a bigger school
that
too.
One shot got Bryce Drew drafted, and that game itself, because I think he had 28 that game.
Yeah,
that got him drafted in the first round. We can say it didn't, but it did.
And I think that helped his dad's stock too because he went on to a bigger school. But I think when you're talking about Clowney, the thing is, and I'm using Clowney as that person, as that weather vane to say, well, how great is Jordy's development? I know he's been hurt, but I'm like, I don't want to hear all of this crap. And then I'm like, let's say this. I'm less sure about Clowney going into this offseason than I was last year at this time going into the offseason. I mean,
yeah. Look, I wanted to see that if he could knock down the three consistently. If he could, I'm just going to feel really good about him. And then he showed that up until his last couple of games, right? Like since he got back from injury. So I'm like, all right, do I just write this off from injury? I remember Joe Harris coming back from injury, and he couldn't shoot at all either.
But don't you think that Clowney's first year in Summer League, don't you think he showed more than he's shown this year?
I think it's the role they're using him in now. Yeah. All he does now, literally, he takes 10 shots a game, and 9 of them are from 3. Every game. It's like,
do you guys remember his Summer League? It's like his first couple Summer League games, like he didn't even make a shot or something. It's not like it was all,
oh no, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that, but it also has to do. Well, definitely had it a different coaching system, right? Because it wasn't the same coach, but also I think that when you're 6'10", play closer to the basket.
That's fair. Why is that? We've done that for 75 years up until now. Like why? I'm gonna help you out.
Hey, that's the new style of coaching. But I'm saying, I'm like, come on, we'll have somebody else. We have Tyrese Martin who can hit a 3, but we need this guy to do, because that's what I was saying when I saw him in the Summer League, and I said, oh, okay, he's still not there yet. He's still raw. But when I see him, rebounding against guys that are his size and blocking shots, which he was doing in that Summer League, then I'm like, okay, that's what we need. A 4 is a 4. A 4 is not somebody out there just shooting threes,
Yeah.
Because they can say all they want about the game has evolved and this and that, but I'm saying if you give me a Rasheed Wallace type of guy who I know can hit the 3, I'm still gonna have him get the ball in the paint and see what he can do over there, So
yeah, if Clowney just kind of fills in a Cam Johnson role where he runs from 3-point line to 3-point line, can't defend fours, can't score in the post, can't score down low, can't offensive rebound, I'm not really that interested, right? I kind of feel like that's what they're kind of trying to transform him into. It's like I'm really not interested in that.
And he's not. He's not Rashad Lewis. That's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. Like Rashad Lewis, that was a local guy for you, right? Like a Houston guy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And he could shoot, and he could shoot, and he was 6'10". He didn't do too much else, but I'm saying he's not that guy. So if he's not that guy, stop having him shoot like it is. And that's the thing. That was a point I think I saw on Gilbert Arenas' podcast like a few months ago, where they were saying, but if you're having all of these guys and most of them average shooting like 35%, and they just keep shooting all the time, all you're gonna have is games where you're watching it, and we see these games all the time where we're watching and we're getting excited about guys shooting, uh, you know, 70% of their shots are threes, and then they're only making a third of them, and it's like this is not basketball. Pop a shot is not basketball. Come on, let's
But
go and play.
the thing is, this is what the system calls for. And how do you find out if a guy can shoot consistently, especially a guy who's under 21? He's got to shoot, right?
Well, I guess the way that I'm looking at it, Pete, is I think if you give me certain guys and you give me like, because obviously you have to play with the talent that you have. But what I'm saying is, if you give me certain guys, I'm gonna teach them. There's no way I can have a Jawan Howard on my bench and I have a Clowney, and Jawan Howard is not teaching him any drop step moves, because I know Jawan Howard can score in the post, and I know if this guy has 2 years with him, then he should be able to score in the post too. Don't you think so?
I don't think that's his job. He's not doing. Jawan Howard's not doing. I don't think he's doing player development.
Well,
I'm sure, like, can he pull him aside? Sure, right? Obviously, the guy's right there. But, you got to keep in mind that his role, Jawan Howard's role, might be,
see,
doing
okay.
schemes, for
Okay,
example,
so
right?
this is, but yeah, I'm glad that we're discussing this, because this is what I'm getting into with it. This is what I'm saying is, that will make me question Jordy's whole thing, because if his whole approach is, if Gary and I close our eyes and we don't look at the coach, but they're playing the same style from Kenny Atkinson through Jock Vaughn through Nash, through
They
Jacques
are.
Vaughn again, through Jordy, it's like, then what are we talking about here? What are we talking about? When are they going to play real basketball? And I'm saying we could say, well, it's because so it'll show that the only success we've ever had really is when we had two guys who could really score from anywhere on the court, KD and Kyrie. That was the only time that everything else is like we're just shooting threes and randomly running, running around with dribble handoffs. But I'm saying, so like when I see a guy like Clowney, I mean, because look, Paulo Banchero, he could shoot the three, right? He could shoot it decently, right?
I mean, kind of, sort of. I mean,
no, I'm
him
saying
shooting
he's
eight.
not
I
a
don't want him shooting
knockdown.
8 of those a game. I don't want him
He's
shooting a
not,
bunch of
yeah.
those.
But I'm
Yeah.
saying, but you want him to be able to score, and this is what I'm trying to say. It's like, and I know that I'm not saying that Clowney is Banchero, right? They're, 19 draft picks apart, right? But what I am saying is, come on, man. At some point, you got to stop playing all of this Euro trash ball and just start really playing basketball. And if you
But
got,
at LBL, how many
yeah,
teams have an offense that's like predicated with a center going back to the basket?
not many.
Can you name 3?
0.
I can't name 3.
I don't think I can name that many. But that doesn't mean that. But also, Pete, that doesn't mean it's the wrong thing to do.
Listen, man, these guys, they get paid the big bucks, and they all seem to say the same thing.
Yeah, but it used to never be a copycat league until like Steph
It's
Curry.
always a copycat in every sport. That's what it is.
If you go back to the 80s and 90s and 2000s, were the Phoenix Suns trying to copy what the Lakers were doing with Kobe? Were they trying to play ISO ball, or were they playing a completely different game? You know what I'm saying? It hasn't always been that way.
Well, that's why they didn't win.
Did the Pistons try to do what the Celtics and the Lakers did back in the 80s? Did the Knicks try to do what the Showtime Lakers did in the 90s? Did the Knicks try? You know what I'm saying? It was different teams. It was
See,
a
yeah.
styles make fights kind of thing.
I could even go more recent, like say with Blake Griffin, right? With his Clippers, right?
Yeah.
The problem with the Clippers, like, they played their oops and stuff, right? The problem with the Clippers was not that it was that their best post player was 6 feet tall, Chris Paul. That these guys, that Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan, they never developed how to play in the post, how to play with their back to the basket to actually score. And I think Griffin could do it, but that was not the style, so therefore they didn't. And so they ran and they threw oops and everything, but once it came down to it, it's like, well, if you play him close and he has no post game, and this is what I'm trying to say, just because you have, I'm not saying that we're going to have Adrian Dantley, we're going to have Charles Barkley in the post we're going to feed the post all the time. But what I'm saying is having it the complete opposite, where you guys don't even look at the basket, like where all we're doing is weaves and shooting threes. I'm saying it's ridiculous when you have the natural talent. I mean, does that mean
there's two comments in here I want to address first, and then we'll get to that, right? Whitehead needs to show in these last 9 games he can have a potential role, or likely he could be out of the rotation, especially if Brooklyn does well. I wanted to Clowney. Whitehead is a guy I wanted to see more of this year. He wanted to stay in the G League. To me, that's not a great sign. Like, that's not confidence inspiring. If my first round pick says I want to stay in the G League, but he can shoot. What are your thoughts on Whitehead wanting to stay in the G League this year as opposed to playing in the NBA? And what do you think his function is here the last 9 games?
Well, I'll start, Pete, and I'm going to ask this because I haven't watched him. I haven't watched him a lot, but when I have watched him, he hasn't really impressed me. I mean, he could shoot, but what I'm saying is he can shoot, but can he play? That's my point. Because I know he is 6'6", right? He's like 6'6" or so. So I'm saying when his shot is not falling, what else is he doing to be in the game?
Nothing. But you could say the same thing about Joe Harris, Cam Johnson, guys like that. I mean, I'm not saying Dariq Whitehead's going to be an all-star, but I'm saying as a role player, he's a consistent enough three-point shooter where he can be on the court. I mean, do you see that?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I guess that's what John is saying. He needs to prove he could at least do that. So, I mean, I'm not opposed to what John is saying, that, yeah, he definitely has, when you get it, shoot. But my point is, it's so hard, it's so difficult to do that when your whole offense is predicated on guys knocking down shots from far away. It's like, gosh, we don't have any, if he comes around all those Cam Johnson, if he comes around for those same shots that Cam Johnson gets and he doesn't knock them down, then what do we do? It's like we don't have any other way.
Well, yeah. We live by that, so I die by that. So if he can't consistently hit the three, he's out of the NBA. It's that simple. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying,
Pete?
Yeah, Scott Mitchell is a writer from Nets Daily. He does a Long Island Nets beat. I talked to him, I think maybe like 3 weeks ago or something, and we talked about Dariq Whitehead, and I said, is it like a confidence thing? Is it like a minutes thing? But what exactly is this? Because sometimes you have that big game against Chicago, and you think he's just going to grow off that, and then all of a sudden we don't see him again. And you told me it's a confidence thing. He's still coming back from that injury. But to answer John's point, I disagree with the 9 games left. I think he's going to be a free agent, or the Nets have like an option for him after next season. So they're going to play him no matter what, because if you're going to pay this guy, you want to make sure you know what you have in him. So no matter what's going to happen, Dariq Whitehead will be getting some minutes next year. That's almost a lock.
But shouldn't he? I mean, look, he does something well on the NBA court, which gives him more minutes than to me than Keon Johnson or Jalen Wilson. Those guys don't do anything well on an NBA court. Dariq Whitehead has a skill set. He can shoot the ball. To me, it's like, okay, let's see how well he can shoot the ball. I know Jalen Wilson and Keon Johnson don't belong in an NBA court. Like Whitehead has something that may make me think he belongs in, and that's why I was okay with Tyrese Martin. And now I'm watching Martin. I'm like, Martin doesn't really belong in the NBA court either. But Whitehead could have a role on an NBA team, and I think it's worth exploring. If he sucks, who cares? Like we wrote the year up anyway. And it's got to be a confidence thing, in my opinion. I'll let you guys respond to this.
I think it's a minutes thing and confidence thing. Sorry to cut you off. I thought you were done.
If you don't want to play in the NBA, if you don't want NBA minutes, that's a confidence thing. I mean, just as me as a boxer, I wanted to fight guys that were better than me all the time because I don't think they're better than me. I can beat them, right? If Dariq Whitehead doesn't want to play in the NBA, you should have to be fighting him, trying to explain to him, look, it's best for your development and best for our franchise for you to be in the G League. It shouldn't be the other way around. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
You go first,
As a
LBL.
shooter, confidence is imperative.
Go ahead, LBL.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Is he there?
Is he there? LBL, you're muted. All right, go ahead, Pete. We'll try to get LBL back. Go ahead. Respond to that.
What was the question? I got distracted up from LBL.
Yeah.
Now.
Oh, good.
No, I got. I remember
yeah.
now. Yeah, I just think it's like a confidence thing. I just think it's, you want to come up to the NBA, and we saw a game like last night. He got 25 minutes, right? Yeah. A month ago, 2 months ago, if he was coming into a game, he was probably getting like 10 minutes. But if you go and play in the G League, you're still probably a little rusty from that injury, right? And you're going to get 25 minutes. You're going to get that extra burn. And, you'd rather maybe get an extra 15 minutes by playing in the G League, right? The competition is not even close to being the same. So you're kind of hurting yourself there. But if you're a young player who's just trying to get like his footing, that might be the right move. And maybe we're wrong. Maybe there's a comfort level over there. I'm not sure. But sooner or later, he's going to have to, get out of the pond and jump into the ocean.
I remember Steve Novak, the shooter, telling a story. He got called up on a 10-day contract at the same time as Lynn Mania, right? And he was on the second 10-day, and he had passed up some decent looks, and he was checking back in with Lynn. And when they're checking, he's like, I got to get some shots up. And Jeremy Lin looked like, you better. What else are you going to do? Like, that's how I feel about Whitehead. Like, you're a shooter. Like, what else? Catch the ball and shoot.
I don't think he's a shooter, but that's not his game, though. He's not like a Joe Harris, though. You know what I mean?
What else does he have? Granted, he hasn't played much. I'll let you respond. He hasn't played much, but what else has he shown you that he can do?
He's a guard. Right. You know what I mean? It's not like when I think of like a 3-point shooter, like you just mentioned, right? I'm thinking of Joe Harris. I'm thinking CJ. That's not his necessarily his role 100%. You know what I mean? Like he's not a guy who's going to.
Who are we talking about?
Whitehead. You're back, OBO?
Oh, you don't think Whitehead's chief role is to shoot?
No, I don't think he's a guy who's going to be standing in the corner. No.
Because I'm wondering, like, he has an NBA size, but he doesn't really seem to have NBA athleticism, like for a 6'6" guy. So I'm trying, it's not like he's
he used to, though. That's why you drafted him.
He used to.
Yeah, but
he hasn't shown that he can get him, because that was like, a top 5 NBA talent with that athleticism, right? And that was the risk. That's why he dropped so low. That was the chance we took, and it probably is not going to work out.
Yeah, but I think now it's changed to whereas he's just a 6'6" shooter. Like I don't think of him like the way I would like G.G. Jackson or something, like a slasher who's going to the hole and stuff. I don't think of him like that.
I wanted to share this. I'll let you guys respond. So he's taken, again, this is I don't want to make too big of a deal of this because it's 84 minutes he's played and he's taken 37 shots. But of his 37 shots, 32 of them are 3-pointers. So
it looks like a 3-point shooter to me.
That's what I'm saying. again, it's only 84 minutes. I'm not going to write the guy's book on 84 minutes of play, but to me, that's what his role is. So he better start shooting.
Can you go? My bad to cut you off, Gary. Can you go to his shooting this year? Go up. It says shooting. It's right next to splits. I want to see his shooting chart. I want to see if he's shooting it from the corner or the top of the key.
Wait, they have this on that site?
Yeah. Go up. Take your arrow. You don't have to use the thing on the side. Just go to the top. It says Dariq Whitehead overview game logs. Oh, wait, scroll down.
Go down. Yeah.
No. You missed it. You had it before. Keep on going up. Go up. Go up to all the way to the top first. Go all the way up to the top.
Oh,
there's shooting. Oh, you just had it. Okay, go slowly down.
Oh,
there, stop.
Oh, I've never
shooting.
I never
go
knew
to
this
24, 25.
Wow. Okay, I was today.
I know. I'm amazing. I know.
Yeah.
Scroll down.
Oh wow! You just changed my life, Petey.
Uh-oh.
You're welcome.
I didn't know they had such a thing.
I love Basketball Reference.
Yeah, they're really. They should charge for this. Honestly, I would pay for this. I use it way too much.
Most of his threes are from.
Yeah, not really from the corner, right? We could all say it doesn't look like he's It doesn't look like he's sitting in the corner. Now I just wonder if they're like dribbles. I wonder if it's a catch and shoot. The NBA.com breaks that up, but we don't got to do that now. That's a lot more complicated. But
like this,
he's not. Basically, my point is he's not sitting in the corner.
Yeah, no, Pete's right about that. But all of his shots are 3-pointers. You know.
How happy are you, Gary? Gary's so happy.
I'm so happy.
look, you're happy because you found that out.
Oh yeah, about that over that. Yeah, you've just changed my. I didn't know that existed until right now. You changed my life with that. That's really good. So like, I forgot. I totally forget. The last topic I wanted to discuss was where we are right now. There's 9 games left. I don't think this seeding is going to change much. Hang on. Wait, what's going on here? I'm having some technical difficulty. All right, I can't pull it up right now. The tank. We're sitting tied for 5th with Philly. Outside chance that New Orleans can catch. New Orleans is winning some games. But how do you guys feel about where we are with the tank and our draft position currently?
Oh, wait a minute.
I'm ready to keep losing.
I mean, but are you content with the way the season's gone, or how do you feel about it right now?
I'm not content. I'm not content with the way the season has gone, even when we end up with our losses, because I feel like we could have did a better job of tanking, and then we wouldn't be in this position, because we could have been in the position of at least like a bottom 3 team if we really would have taken it seriously early. And I don't understand, those people who talk about, oh no, we're trying to win and we're getting to play in. And okay, I just got to know, did you keep going to all those games? Probably not.
Yeah, Pete, let me get you, and I want to respond. How do you feel about how the tank has gone, how the season has gone?
It's not great. We kind of half-assed it. We have that game a couple weeks ago where Clax hits the game winner, and now we're here with 9 games left, and it looks like Philadelphia is going to be able to finish in front of us. That one game could have really big ramifications. You didn't think about it right then. You figured there'd be enough time, but I don't know. I think we're going to stay where we're at. I'm not happy about it. I think I would have been a lot more comfortable at 5 than 6.
The last thing I'll ask is, does it matter though? Can you lose as much as you want, and the NBA is going to tell you where you pick? Pete?
No, I don't think it's rigged. I think maybe if I have to be, a conspiracy theorist, I would say they would take the first pick of the draft and select it to go to the team that they want for the betterment of the league. But from 2 and on, I do believe that it is a sealed, actual lottery. I would say that. So I think it does matter.
LBL, I'm going to put both questions. Does it matter how much the Nets lose, or is the NBA just going to tell them where they pick?
I think it matters how much you lose, because obviously, even if it's like 4 percentage points by being one of the top 4 or something, as opposed to being 5 and on, I think that does matter. But also, I think one of the things that's interesting, I don't know if you guys saw that on X or on anything else, where they had a viral, I guess they were showing the ping pongs, like when they were going live, and they were like, anyone ever wonder, and this was a conspiracy theory video, but they said, you ever wonder why they stopped doing it down to the wire? Why they stopped showing the ping pongs down to the wire to see
Pete
who
addressed
won?
this. Pete
I'm gonna do
earlier.
that again.
Do you want to just give us a recap real quick? There's like
all right, I'll try.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do. We talked about this before. So how the way that it works is people think that it's ping pong balls, and it gets the ball that pops up, and it's a Nets logo on it, and the Nets get the pick. This is how it works, and I'm breaking this down very simply. Okay. The Nets have what are we at, 6 right now? The sixth pick, right, with the 6 best chances to get the first overall pick. Teams are giving a set of numbers. I'm just making this up. Let's pretend it's like a set of 3 numbers, okay? Like 1, 2, and 3. There's 10 sets of numbers. Utah is all the way up, right? Since they're worse than us, they'll have 15 sets of 3 numbers. And the way that it works is you'll have the ping pong balls, they'll come up. Let's say Utah has 1, 2, 4. We have 1, 2, 3. First 2 ping pong balls are 1 and 2. Then if it's a 4, it goes to Utah. If it's a 3, it goes to the Nets. And if any other numbers in your set come up, you get the pick. And that's how it works. The worst teams with the higher percentages get more sets of numbers, thus equaling a better chance of those numbers coming up.
Okay, so now what I'm saying, thank you for that edification. But with that, I'm patient enough to, between the halftime of a playoff game, to watch at least the last 3 teams actually do it, so I can tell that, hey, it's not rigged.
Oh no, you can look it up right now. It's online. They have every single one of them online on NBA.com. I watch it.
So then how come they only show us the envelopes?
Because that's ESPN. It's more dramatic that way. It's a presentation. That's not the actual. When we see the envelopes, it's already done. The teams already know.
Yeah, it is. It is already done.
Some people don't want to see the ping pong
No,
balls.
I'm saying the lottery is already done, and the cards are placed within the envelope.
Correct.
But the people holding them don't know who won, though.
So this is how it works. They take your cell phone and they lock you in a room, and the only person who's allowed to leave the room is like a lawyer from like one of these prestigious companies, and he hands it to the guy who's the assistant commissioner, and that guy opens it up. And those people in that room cannot leave the room or get their cell phones or technology until it's released on ESPN when we find out.
All right. So now, are you saying that? I just want this clarification. Are you saying that when they're sitting in the room, whether it's Mr. Whammy for the Nets or whoever else, you're saying when they're sitting there and they're like, okay, we're back to the lottery, the final 3 teams. You're saying they already know who won?
No, Mr. Whammy's sitting with the envelopes.
That's what I'm saying.
And Josiah is in the room.
Mm-hmm.
And Josiah can't leave the room. So
Mr.
Whammy has no idea what's going on.
But Josiah already knows the outcome.
Yes, everyone in the room already knows the outcome. It's a lot. It's a lot. And if you look at NBA.com, they break it down really, really well.
Okay.
It is confusing. I had to read it a couple times to break it down.
Yeah, that's pretty bad to me. That's pretty bad. That almost is like, wrestling or something. Come on.
They film all of it though. You know what I mean? Like they film.
Hmm.
I like could you fake it? I'm sure. And if you're paying the lawyers and the prestigious firm to watch you do this,
Yeah,
like I'm paying you. Like, are you gonna really police me?
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like, no.
yeah,
Like, could it be fake? Sure, but they film it all. They do a very good job of faking it if they do wind up faking it.
okay. So that's what convinces you that it's not rigged, except for you said who might get the number one.
Yeah, if I put on conspiracy theory, I don't think it's rigged, but it is funny to see all these funny coincidences of Zion to New Orleans, LeBron to Cleveland, D Rose to Chicago. It is kind of funny, but I don't know. That's saying a lot. I feel like that's saying a lot. Why not
Yeah,
let the Knicks win in a in another year when they're in the lottery and they don't have a good team?
yeah, yeah,
Well, because the Knicks already have the most loyal fan base in basketball. The Knicks fans are accounted for.
Yeah, but they spend more money when they're winning,
Yeah, I mean,
and it's better for the league. It's better for the league when the Knicks are winning.
oh, definitely.
probably, yeah.
But yeah,
I mean,
so
they'll get them there. They'll
right,
get
and
them there. But the Knicks pick so bad. It's like, what's the point of giving them? They're gonna miss on the pick anyway.
Yeah, but you can't say that. You know what I mean?
I agree.
all right. So I just want to get back to this to Mark, because he posts a lot of intelligent stuff and a lot of things to make us think. But when I'm looking at him say this, big man back to the basket. What is this shit? The year 500 BC. That's funny.
He
But
ain't
what I'm thinking,
wrong.
huh?
He ain't wrong, LBL. I'm
Well,
sorry to
here's what I'm
say.
gonna say. Well, here's what I'm gonna say. If you draft Derek McQueen, I mean, if you draft Derek Queen,
Queen.
if you draft him and he could score the way he did in college against pro guys, I'm saying you're gonna deny him that back to the basket opportunity. You're gonna make him, because part of this is skill level, and then part of it is like the NBA's biggest star over the last 20 years was a guy who did not know how to play back to the basket. Can we agree with that with LeBron?
Yeah, and they changed the game for him. Okay, you
Exactly.
can't play with your back to the basket. Okay, no
That's
problem.
what I'm saying. He even went down to Houston to get some footwork from Olajuwon, right? Like when he wanted to expand his game a little, but by then it was too late. But he's still a guy that doesn't like to play with his back to the basket, and that's what I'm saying. It's like he was the biggest star, and what's his name was killing us when he did that. I went to the game about about 4 or 5 years ago when Melo was killing us because we had Joe Harris on him, and he was like, "Man, this is chicken dinner, this is barbecue
Yeah.
chicken," and he was killing us just staying on the baseline, and like, I'm just gonna hit this little turnaround, bang, and that's what I'm saying. It's like, so there is room for that, and that's what I'm saying. Now they no longer have that, what they call the Barkley rule, right, where you can actually, they count you out. So if you catch the ball in the post, I think you have less than 5 seconds to make the move or give up the ball, or else they're gonna call what do you call that, the illegal offense on you. They're gonna make that call on you, and that's probably a rule change that they need to come back to, because I do want to see Wemby dominate. I do want to see him develop a hook shot, or I do want to see him spin and dunk on people when they're. I'm not a fan of seeing a 7'4" guy shoot a bunch of threes. Now that's just my personal preference, I know, but I'm saying the basketball is just not as exciting anymore, and it's boring watching. And I don't mean that.
He is right. When you watch the college game in the tournament and you see like team run offenses and they run the ball through their big man, like it is fun to watch, other than just passing the ball around the perimeter and
That's what I'm
shooting a
saying.
three.
You saw that guy on Michigan, right? That guy is
Yeah.
a monster, right? Not, and I don't mean Joe Wolf. I mean the other guy, Vladimir, whatever his name is, the center. He can't be moved, right?
You're muted, Gary.
Yeah, sorry. Go
Sorry.
ahead. I'll be out. Yeah.
But he's a monster in there. And then just the fact that Joe Wolf could do all those other things in between game, it just adds to it. But what I'm saying is, yeah, that's what you want to see. You want to see, well, how does this team play a guy like that? Or like when they had Zach Edey a couple of years ago at Purdue, it's like, yeah, you want to see, well, how do they handle that this big man can be so dominant once he gets the ball in the post? I'm saying it's not like it's not a part of basketball. It's not a part of current NBA basketball, but that's by design by the coaches. It's not by design for it doesn't win.
All right. I got to wrap this up, guys. LBL, thanks for popping on. I appreciate you.
Thanks. Thank you,
And
guys.
Pete, let us know where everyone can find you and what you got going on.
You could check out my channel at NetFriends. Same thing on Twitter. Like I said before, I put out an episode just today. Very big episode. It's actually my 100th episode of the podcast.
Woohoo!
Over an hour. I talked with Jay from BK, who's sort of a Nets insider. He doesn't like to be called a Nets insider, but I consider him a Nets insider. And we talk about a lot of stuff, including he told me the lottery is rigged, at least with the first pick. I got that stuff and a whole lot of juicy draft stuff in that episode. Go check it out. If you like it, subscribe, leave a like, and leave a like for Gary.
Appreciate that, Pete. Great show, guys. Pete, I only got about halfway through because I only saw it about a half hour before we went live here. But so far, it's really good. The conversation with Jay is really insightful. If you want to talk about the tank, the ethical tank, and the draft, things like that, it's been really good. I'm looking forward to listening to the second half of it. But
I got to check it out. Yeah.
March 27th, 2025, from Texas to the world. Thank you, and God bless. I got to go watch my Mets now. Y'all be good.
All right. Take it easy.
Later.